Hey there, it's me, Papercut, as I'm known now, and today I'm gonna be trying something a little bit different. Now, as all of you know, my videos have been very simple, run-of-the-mill episodic reviews. It's a tried and true method, and is the easiest type of video essay to do. The thing is that over the past few months, I've been getting ideas for new types of videos on the channel. I don't want to just be known for the same type of video for too long, and I want to add some variation to my videos, and I finally got off my ass and got to work developing these ideas, this video being the first of them. For this video, I'm going to be doing my first episode versus, where I take two episodes that have similar concepts and review them side by side to determine which is better in my opinion. So without further ado, let's get into HokeyMon from the second season of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy versus The Line from season 5 of The Amazing World of Gumball. So let's start with The Line. The episode begins with Nicole coming out of a tent, stating that it's nice to be doing something with her family, only to be revealed that the tent is actually on a sidewalk, not some mountainous area as you would expect. It's revealed that they're in line for the new Stellar Odyssey movie, or as these eggheads will remind you,
is this the line for the first screening of Stellar Odyssey?
Please, Colin, use the full title. Stellar Odyssey, The Force Rehash.
The episode wastes no time getting into the jokes. Right off the bat, this episode gets into what I like to call referential humor, as they parody how the titles of the Star Wars movies are constructed, while also giving commentary on the changing face of entertainment and nerd culture.
Since when did sci-fi become so popular with normal people?
What next? Mainstream culture making films and hit TV shows out of superheroes and dragons and... Oh, wait.
On one hand, the joke about how much mainstream media has adopted and accepted nerd culture without anyone really noticing how it happened is pretty funny. However, the comment on how sci-fi became popular among normal people just doesn't hit the same chord with me, because later in the episode, we see that most of the people who came to see the first screening are getting quite deep in terms of anticipation and go as far as dressing up. Now, doesn't that sound like something your typical nerd character would do? While I do understand that Colin and Felix are shown not to go as deep as some of the other characters, but still, I would say that most of these characters, in this specific situation, would fall under that sci-fi nerd label. So what do they mean by normal people? Do they mean people who don't actually care for the franchise and just do it because it's popular? Or is it people who just don't know lots about it, or aren't that passionate about it as they are? It's not entirely clear. So far, we're 2 minutes in and the episode has focused mainly on hyping up how much the family and the rest of Elmore is looking forward to the movie. It's also worth noting that they emphasize how they're excited for different reasons. Anais and Gumball want to be one of the first to see it, more specifically Anais so she can have power over the people who haven't seen it. Richard is just a mega fan, Nicole just wants some quality time with her family, and Darwin wants to see a knockoff Jar Jar Binks. People even go as far as cutting in front of people who are in respiratory arrest.
Gosh darn paramedic! I go into respiratory arrest for 1 minute and he steals my place in the line!
So far, this episode is hitting it out of the park, but now is a good time to move on to HokeyMon. The episode's title credits, apart from having some of the most iconic music from a cartoon in my opinion, has an immediate reference to Pokemon cards, with Billy being in place of the Pokemon. Originally, I thought I wasn't going to get a lot of references that it was going to make, but to my knowledge, there actually didn't seem to be that many. It seems that the parody doesn't come from the specifics of the franchise, and more so the broader concept of the franchise. Now, on one hand, this can lead to fans of the franchise being parodied feel empty, as they feel that there wasn't enough reference to the source material. However, because of the fact that I don't know that much about Pokemon, this actually works to the episode's advantage for me, as I could focus on the plot and other jokes in the episode, instead of constantly asking myself if there's a reference I'm supposed to get. However, it is a lot of fun to see specific references that the line delivers, so ultimately I'm at a crossroads here where I'm completely neutral to this.
Fragadactylops! I'll see your Fragadactylops, and I'll raise you one bulbous bloboguts.
Bug-eyed booger eater!
A liver bread drooler!
A big dumb wiener head!
El Blasto Stanko!
We see Erwin and Billy playing a game of HokeyMonsters. There's this really nice jazz track playing in the background that really sets the mood of the scene. There's something about that relaxed and nostalgic feel of the show that always gets me whenever I'm watching it. I don't know exactly how to explain it or what it is. Maybe it's the darker colors and the somewhat disturbing, yet not in-your-face and overstated humor, but there's a vibe to the show that in my opinion could never ever be replicated. Their HokeyMonster game heats up quicker than my mother's oven and they start throwing hands. Grim, not completely understanding the point of the game, turns one of the cards into a real-life HokeyMonster.
Maybe if they were real monsters.
Real life HokeyMonster!
I almost peed my pants.
The boys start nerding out, as any passionate fan of a franchise would if a fictional character became real, and they ask Grimm to make more of their cards to become real.
What would you two weirdos do with real HokeyMonsters?
We'd be like rock stars or news anchormen! Chicks would dig us!
That's such a good joke, and Mandy's face is what really sells the scene for me. Billy and Erwin go out to test their new HokeyMonsters out, but before diving into that, since this episode is 7 minutes, let's get back into the line.
That gives me an idea. You gonna share it with us or what? Oh, yeah.
While it's not entirely obvious, I personally find this to be a fourth wall break, because you see, whenever a character says they have a plan, the episode usually cuts to the scene of them implementing it. However, Gumball just stands there, almost expecting the scene to cut to him doing the plan, but a tiny dose of reality, in the form of Anais, asks for him to share the plan. Now that's really the only way I personally see the joke. If you think Gumball just zoned out, that's fine, but I like my interpretation more, so...
Shut the fuck up!
Gumball poses as a movie reviewer, but instead gives out fake spoilers to sway people into not watching the movie, so he and his family can get in line. Now, a lot of this video is going to be focused mainly on the humor, and while up to this point this episode has been absolute gold, which is very hard to find among season 5 and 6 unfortunately, it falls back into this style of meta jokes.
Dude, I can't wait to see this movie.
I know, it's so exciting. Anything could happen.
Yeah, anything. As long as they keep it exactly the same as it was in the first 3 movies and nothing changes at all.
I want surprises, but, you know, only the ones I expect.
What up, Elmore streamers? It's Dolly Boy 1923, aka Pixel Donkey. No spoilers, but it's so refreshing to see less CGI space battles and more sock puppets. And what a brave decision it was to recast all the main characters as female, including the robots.
While there's nothing inherently wrong with meta humor, Gumball tends to wrap it up to 11, which leads to the same problems that I have with modern seasons of The Fairly Odd Parents. Just replace the failed subversion with meta jokes. Here, they portray Gumball as a fat neckbeard reviewer, which reminds me a lot of when Teen Titans Go did it for the 100th episode. While it's not as bad as some of the other meta jokes that the show tries to pull off, it just doesn't feel like it belongs in a Gumball episode. Plus, this trope has been done before, so I wasn't really gonna be the hugest fan of it, since it's always done in the exact same way. Unhappy with where they're going to be seated, Richard says that they might as well watch the holiday special at home. The president of the Stellar Odyssey fan club, Elmore chapter, hears this and says that only a true fan would watch that special. After Richard says that he's the biggest fan, and him saying that he thought a teapot would be into tea, which is just common sense really, he gets challenged to a nerd off. But before we get too far into this episode, let's finish off HokeyMon. We see that Billy and Erwin go into an alleyway and start flexing their new cards. Soon they become the talk of the town as a bunch of kids in the neighborhood watch as they challenge people, only to reveal the trick they have up their sleeves. Again, just something about the whole vibe of the scene, with the backing track and all the kids being there and all of what's going on. I feel like a lot of the reason why I like the show, and other shows of this nature like Ed, Ed and Eddie for example, is this very down-to-earth feeling. It's understated, because a lot of the times, life is understated. Billy and Erwin get into some hot water as the kids chase them back into the house, demanding that Grimm give them living HokeyMonsters since it's only fair that they have them too. Grimm obliges, and we get some scenes of the kids flexing their new HokeyMon. I feel like I've been saying HokeyMon too much in this review. Why does this monster shooting lasers look like a meme to me? That was most likely unintentional because memes didn't exist, but still, I can't get over this. The monsters start turning on each other, and we get some really great slapstick, which is something that I feel the show doesn't get much credit for. It's not necessarily exaggerated slapstick like you would see in something like Tom and Jerry, but it's creative enough and has enough variation in speed and severity that it's still interesting to watch. Things can also get really creepy and weird, which is a staple of the show. Like when a monster eats the news anchor's head off, and then some sort of alien head comes out.
And that's the news.
It's not entirely obvious at first, because it's treated so normally, especially when Billy says that that's his favorite news guy, after just seeing him turn into an alien. But when you start thinking about it, it gets creepy. And I think Billy and Mandy shines in that department. Although as a kid, I didn't appreciate it as much as I do now. I just thought it was cool and funny. Mandy sees the destruction that the monsters cause and decides to deal with it herself.
I want you to work your magic on one more card.
You made your own? Mandy's monster makes toast out of all the other monsters. Knock yourself out.
No toast in bed.
Sorry.
And like most episodes of the show, it ends on a creepy yet somewhat comedic note. And that was HokeyMon. Now, let's finish off with the line.
A nerd off.
We too challenge you in this mighty test of nerddom.
Please, you weren't even born when the original trilogy came out.
You have no idea how hard it was for us fans before the internet.
That's right. You've got chatting rooms, weblogs, social medias.
Yeah, now even the most facially challenged nerd can find love online instead of spending their life alone like I do.
Firstly, if you don't get out of here with that I'm a little teapot looking body, that spout looking like an elephant trunk, and that fake ass General Palpatine looking cloak, I'm going to have to drop you on your porcelain head, man. I don't even have to say that. He legit roasted himself in that very statement. At least my generation of nerds has a way to not spend the rest of their lives alone. I just hate this mentality of, you didn't have it as hard as we did, therefore your opinions are invalid and stupid. Like if anything, we should be flexing that we have it easier than you. And you should be happy that we have it easier for you, since we're the next generation of Earth. You should be the ones begging to be in our position. In fact, that's probably why most people say this. As someone who is Gen Z, I have heard this a lot, and if I have to hear this one more time, I am throwing hands, and I will make sure to get a nut shot. I don't care if security is pulling me off your body. I know it seems like I'm focusing too much on this scene, but it actually becomes very important later on. Richard and this guy have a nerd off, and Richard ends up winning because the guy who battled him had a friend. Something that all nerds should know is absolutely unacceptable.
I forced my only school friend to call me Imperial Highness for 30 years.
Wait! Friend? You had a friend?
The town realizes that they've all been in line at the wrong theater, and the right one is on the other side of town. Now there is something that I don't think was done the best here. In the beginning, Larry said that they wouldn't make it to the first screening, meaning that they had to have been at the right theater. Plus, they could have just double-checked their actual tickets instead of the notification to see if they were correct. On top of that, I would have found it weird if everyone in the town made the exact same mistake, and that they all blindly followed Gumball's word without a second thought. So for that, I have to knock points off of this episode. However, I do feel that the ending of the episode really makes up for that, but we'll get to that in just a tiny bit. They all start rushing to Elmore Street, and it's a pretty cool action scene, and I'll just play you some of my favorite jokes here.
Pew 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 pew.
Maybe I'll cut through here instead. Excuse me, what's the quickest way to Elmore Street, please?
Did you get the VIP seats?
Of course not. It's a reboot. Chances are we'll be out of the theater in 10 minutes.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
So they realize that they've been
Duped again!
by none other than the eggheads Colin and Felix. This was a fantastic ending, an elaborate take that to all boomers everywhere, and that finishes off the line. So, out of these two episodes, which do I prefer? HokeyMon had a simpler plot and was shorter, but really delivered in terms of humor and the overall enjoyment I got. While the line did much more than expected with what could have honestly been a very boring plot to follow. The Star Wars references were on point, however there was a tiny plot hole, but the ending made up for it in my opinion. So overall, I would say The Line wins this one for me. But keep in mind, both of these episodes are really good. So that was my first versus. I hope you enjoyed and that your time was well spent. Thank you for watching, and take care.